Hey everybody, welcome back to Twin Oaks Farm, rural Southeast Ohio, USA. And it's really a great day here in the meat bird production barn. We've got good news in the meat bird production barn. 301 chickens are thriving in the flock. We're halfway through their production to be processed into top quality poultry. We raise them for 6 weeks, and day 21 they're turning 3 weeks old today, so they're doing great. We started with 305 birds. We are down to 301. The 4 that we lost, 2 were just failure to thrive, and 2 actually got turned over on their backs while there wasn't somebody in the barn to help them get right side up. And when that happens, they can't breathe efficiently and they end up suffocating. So that's what has been our losses so far. So really that's very minimal, and it's discouraging, but we have to take that in stride, because to have 301 birds out of 305 on day 21 is really a good sign for this flock. Things are agreeing with them, conditions are great for them, quality of life is good, and that's evident in the fact that we have 301 in production out of 305 when we're 3 weeks in. So other good news in the barn, we had a wasp nest in here, and we actually initially found it back on day 11, thought we had it taken care of. The wasps came back, they were flying around being a nuisance, and so we got that eliminated at the end of day 20, and the wasp nest is totally gone this time, so they're out of here. We also put down fresh bedding in this pen. Let's take a look at the flock. So they've been up, eating and drinking, been active, and a lot of them are resting now. We did put fresh bedding down in this pen at the end of day 20. We had really maxed out the bedding that was here as of the end of day 20. Was trying to think back on quantity. As of the end of day 20, we had used 10 bags of feed. So on, not feed, I'm trying to talk about bedding, sorry about that. We had used 10 bags of pine shaving bedding material over 20 days. So basically a bag of bedding material every 2 days. So that's good, that's right on target. We put 3 bags of bedding down at the end of day 20 in here, just to provide a dry layer of bedding on top, on the surface, because we want to keep it dry. That protects the bird's skin on their underbelly, as well as the condition of the chicken's feet, the bottom of their feet. We want to keep those healthy. So all of the bedding is now fresh on top, and hopefully we'll be able to go about 3 days before we add some more bedding down. But these birds do produce a lot of manure. Their manure includes their urine, so it produces ammonia, and that is being absorbed by the bedding. So we have to just keep an eye on that there's still capacity of the bedding to absorb what the birds are loading onto it. And when it kind of gets maxed out, we've got to generally just add more. Sometimes you can safely aerate it, which if y'all watch Broilers Day 18 and the Broilers Day 18 bonus clip, 2 separate videos, you can kind of see how we did manage to safely aerate the bedding under this once, and it gained us a couple more days use out of it, so that we didn't have to add fresh until day 20. So we also want to talk about some production costs. If you've ever wondered, what would it cost me to produce homegrown poultry, or if you've ever wondered, why is there's really a price difference between like small farms or small operators that produce poultry and the chicken that we can pick up at the grocery store. Why is there that price difference? Maybe seeing some of the breakdown of production costs can kind of help with some understanding on that. So actually going to go right here to our production board. So we've been keeping track of the expenses that have been paid out for this flock so far, and a running total of those. And then we've done some figures down here to kind of help break down what is it costing. What is it actually costing? So the expenses that we've had so far are here. 40 bags of feed is only 2/3 of the amount of total feed that we expect to use for the flock. So there will be some more cost added in for about 20 more bags of feed. but we've got 2/3 of the feed and 19 bags of shavings purchased. The chickens themselves and some electrolyte and vitamin supplement early on. So that's all the costs that have gone into this so far. So we had a $700 expenditure for the 40 bags of feed and some shavings. The chicks, 300 of them, cost us $615. There were 5 extra chicks, so we started with a 305. They cost us $615 total. That electrolyte and vitamin supplement was just a wellness booster in the beginning. That only cost us $6. We got 4 bags of shavings and then 10 bags of shavings, so we had those costs there. So all of that money spent out so far, running total $1,461 has been spent. We got to give it a moment to focus. We get to practice our patience is a virtue. So $1,461 has been spent on this flock of 301 Cornish Rock cross meat chickens that are intended to be produced for poultry in 42 days of production, and they're halfway through that. So that $1,461, if we divide it, that's our cost, and if we divide it by the number of birds that are here, 301, right now, every bird here in this pen has had $4.65 spent on it for production cost. Now, that's not the end of the story, obviously. This $1,461, that's going to go up. There's going to be more expense. 301 chickens, that's probably going to go down. It is possible and likely that at least a few more will not make it to processing date. So this total expense per bird is probably going to go up a little. But what does that tell us? One thing that tells us is if you wanted to raise poultry yourself for your own household consumption, it's reasonable for you to be able to expect to produce poultry for less than $10 per chicken. Probably several dollars less than $10 per chicken. That's that cost per chicken. If this flock continues on the trajectory of success that it's having now, that production cost isn't going to increase dramatically if you are processing the birds yourself. Now, we take our birds to a United States Department of Agriculture inspector processor, and maybe a lot of small poultry producers that sell their poultry, maybe they take it to a processor as well. So this line of figuring right here is for processing alone. The last time we took a flock about this size and put in a custom cut order on it at the processor, the bill was $1,758. So we're figuring $1,800 processing cost. This is just processing. Divided by what we have now, 301 birds, the processing alone could be $6, about $6, rounded up. $5.98 rounded up, be about $6. So right now for us, with production of the birds and taking into account processing, we're looking at $10.65 per bird, at least. And we already know that production cost is going to go up to some extent because we have to add in feed, 20 more bags. We know that we have some electric costs from when we use the supplemental heat from those heat lamps up at the top of the frame. We used those initially, so we have some electric costs that will be coming in on a utility bill, and we will probably figure in our fuel to go to the processor and back, and that takes us 2 trips because we take the birds up once, and then we come home, and then we got to go back and get the poultry and come home. So those expenses are going to go in. So if we're already looking at $10.65 for production cost, and we know we have more production costs to go in, and we might end up with fewer birds, we may end up somewhere in the range of $15 to $16 per bird production cost. So that kind of gives you insight into not only what would it cost me to produce my own poultry, but kind of gives you insight into why are the poultry prices from small poultry farms, small poultry production operations, why are they at the price points they're at? Because honestly, there's quite a large investment financially in these birds per bird. and overall as flocks. So I hope that gives you some insight into what we're looking at. But I think it's probably reasonable and safe to say that if we choose to use a processor, that more or less might double or double plus a little more the cost of production. So ultimately, the real economical way to produce poultry is to raise your own and process it yourself. So that's a thought. Now, like producers like us, one of the reasons we would opt to take it to USDA inspected processor is just we can sell it across state lines, and there are some federal exemptions in place in regulations that could allow us to do our operation without a USDA inspected processing and still sell the meat. But we opt for the USDA inspected processing, for one thing, because we've processed a flock of about 100 meat chickens, and it's a big undertaking. It's quite an ordeal. It's a production. So we prefer to take them to a processor, and we work with the same processor every time. We see the facility. We talk with the inspector every time we're up there. Very satisfied with where we take our chickens to have them processed, and we choose to use the USDA inspected processor, but we know that probably just about doubles our production costs. So I hope that information gives you some insight into poultry production and the cost of poultry production. And by all means, any questions you have, especially if it's something that you're wondering about and we never seem to address it, please put it in comments. We learn a lot from the comments and the feedback, but we also are happy to share anything that you have a question or curiosity about. So the flock is doing great. It's a great day at Twin Oaks Farm here in rural Southeast Ohio, USA, and we hope that y'all are living small, loving big, and using local agriculture for food sources as much as you possibly can, wherever local is for you. So thanks so much for joining us. Please do subscribe to Twin Oaks Farm Poultry and share about our channel with family and friends who might be interested in how food can be, homegrown. And we take you through the whole process of raising poultry here and willing to answer questions. And certainly this isn't the only way to raise poultry. There are a lot of successful ways to raise poultry, but this is a way that we have found that works for us. And we can scale it down for smaller flocks or scale it up for larger flocks and be able to produce poultry from Cornish rock cross meat chickens in a matter of 6 to 8 weeks. So thanks so much, y'all. God bless you.